Hello and welcome to my channel UPSC REL. This video is about the revolt of 1857. I am referring the spectrum, that is the spectrum, the brief history of modern India. I'm not giving you any other extra content for this because let us focus only on the standard book that is given to us. This video or the revolt of 1857 will be discussed in two videos. This is part 1 of the revolt of 1857. I am referring to the revised 2018 edition of Spectrum. This content is on the page number 170 of this edition. Every other Spectrum has the same content. Kindly do follow whichever Spectrum you have. First, the chapter just opens up with the simmering discontent that is there between the British and different sections of people in the Indian society. So before the simmering discontent, what had happened in 1757 was a battle of Plassey. This battle of Plassey was between Robert Clive and Siraj-ud-Dowlah. The Robert Clive was from the British side and Siraj-ud-Dowlah is a ruler in India. These people had to fight a battle called as Battle of Plassey, by which British got power in India. So this is the battle by which British started getting power in India. It's not Battle of Buxar. Okay, kindly let me know or comment down between whom was the Battle of Buxar fought and when was it fought. So next, moving on, we see there is simmering discontent in the country. So why there is simmering discontent? Because of British expansionist policies. I'll tell you the three reasons first. The first three reasons are because of the British expansionist policies. Second is because of the economic exploitation that the British are doing in India. Third is the administrative innovations that the British are doing in India. First is British expansionist policies. What are expansionist policies? They are trying to acquire more and more territories to rule under the East India Company. So people who were there, they did not like this. Second one, economic exploitation. They started economically exploiting India. They started collecting revenues. They started taking away the goods that were here or the raw materials that were available in India, and they did not pay for all of this. And whatever ready-made goods they bought from abroad, that is from England, they used to sell it at very cheap rate also. So people here were because of that imported goods, these machine made goods, the handicrafts people also couldn't compete with these machine made goods. So there was economic exploitation of people. Third is the administrative innovations. Administrative innovations in the sense, these people had a lot of problem, or they gave a lot of problem to the princes who are there or the kings who are there in India also. These people did not let them rule their own administration or look after their own administration. They started interfering in the administrative matters also. So this angered a lot of people. It angered people like Indian rulers, sepoys, zamindars, peasants, traders, artisans, pandits, maulvis, etc. And because of all this discontent, everybody had their own reason for feeling sad. Okay, everybody had their own problems with the British. But revolt of 1857 happened for a number of reasons. But the only immediate reason we all know is the Enfield rifle. That was the only immediate cause. Okay, but there are a lot of reasons behind this why people came out in large numbers to fight against the British. So we can't say now in 1857 there is an outburst, that is the revolt of 1857. So can you say that from 1757 to 1857 was it very peaceful? No, there were lot of uprisings also. Actually, a chapter before revolt of 1857 in the Spectrum itself talks about various uprisings like the tribal uprisings, peasant uprisings, and etc. And all these uprisings tell us that the period between 1757 to 1857 was also not very peaceful. There was revenue demand that British had on people, and because of these revenue demands from the peasants and everybody, these peasants could not pay the high revenues that were fixed by the government, that is the British East India Company. So people started borrowing money from money lenders who used to give them money at very high interest rates. So these money lenders were also a big problem to the people. The last reason is the traditional and the religious customs. Like now they abolished sati system. This was very much a religious matter to Indians. So people did not all like all these kind of interventions that British was making into the Indian society. So people revolted, but all because of all this also people revolted. All these small uprisings were very much brutally, they were suppressed. So now what was that extra thing that happened, or what was that difference was that was there between the 1857 and the other revolts that happened was this 1857 uprising. 1857 uprising, it was like a mass kind of a moment, a first mass moment you can say, because a lot of people from lot of regions started revolting, but they did not have one specific reason. Everybody had their own reasons. Now when we divide what are the causes for this kind of revolution or this kind of revolt, you can divide it into 7 causes. The first cause is the socio-cultural cause, the second is the economic cause, third is the political causes, fourth is the socio-religious causes, administrative causes, influence of the outside events, discontent was there among the sepoys, which you can also call it as the military causes, and the last one was the immediate cause. One by one when we talk about, it will be very clear for us to remember when we put it into subheadings. So we know there are 7 causes for the revolt that happened in 1857. First and very important cause was the economic cause. The economic cause had destroyed the traditional Indian fabric that was there, traditional economic fabric that was there in the Indian society. That is, people who were trading, they used to trade, they used to earn. People who were working in the agricultural land, they used to work, they used to earn. Everything was systematic, and everything had a clear cut kind of framework. But when these people started involving in the societal matters, everybody started what you call, like I'll tell you what happens. See, now there is a handicraft person, he starts working, he is doing handicrafts work, but they bought goods from Britain. Now this handicraft, whatever they had bought, these handicrafts were not having any value in Indian society, right? So this person had to leave that handicraft job, and he had to go back and look for another job. What will that person look for another job in India that time? He will do agriculture. So now there is no difference between handicraft person and peasant. So this happened. So that traditional economic fabric was broken. Now here you can see the people who were affected were, first person who was affected was a peasant. Peasant was affected because of the high taxes that were put on him. He used to borrow money from the money lenders, and these money lenders used to give him money at high rates. This person was not able to pay back these dues. Because of that, he used to be evicted from the land. Means the money lender will take away the land from the peasant. These money lenders and traders, whoever were there, they became the new landlords in the Indian society. The zamindari system was forced to disintegrate. Who will you call as a zamindar? A person who is having such amount of land. He should be having some amount of land to call him a zamindar. When this land is going off to money lenders and traders, now that zamindari status is also lost, right? So zamindari system also disintegrated. Second kind of people who were affected were the artisans and the handicraft people. These people were very much affected because the British started annexing the states, and the rulers, whoever were there, they used to become subordinate to the British rule. So here these rulers, whoever were there, they used to patronize these handicrafts people and the artisan people. Now when this land itself is annexed by the British, or this kingdom itself is annexed by the British, now these rulers don't have a source of revenue for themselves itself. Now where will they pay for these artisans and handicrafts if they patronize? So this became a problem. The British policy also did not encourage the Indian handicrafts, and they promoted only the British goods. And they promoted the British goods, but did they start modern industries in India at the same time? No, they did not start. So these handicrafts people also lost their patronage, they lost their significance there, they didn't have work now. Now they have to, now what they can work in, they can work in handicrafts only because they are well versed in it. But are there modern industries for them to work? No. So now they are forced to go and work in agriculture. Here next category of people who are affected is the Indian trade and the mercantile class. The Indian trade and the mercantile class crippled a lot, because a lot of tariff means the taxes was put on the goods that used to be exported, and whatever goods was bought from Britain into India, that is whatever was imported into India, there was very low taxes on that. So because of that, they started promoting British goods only. Now because of that, this mercantile class and the trading class kind of people, they got affected very much. And also by the end of 18th century, the export of cotton and silk also came to an end. Then the next kind of people who were affected were the zamindars. That is, the land rights were taken away from these zamindars because of the use of co-warranto. They used co-warranto and they took away the lands. Because of they lost the land, they started losing their zamindari status in the villages. For example, in a region called Awadh, there were 21,000 talukdars. Talukdars are nothing but zamindars. These people had all their estates confiscated. That is, British took away all their land. So the people lost their status of talukdars also. There was ruin of industries. There was ruin of Indian industries that were there, local industries. Because of that, people lost their jobs. Now everybody, whoever had lost their jobs, whoever is facing problem, they will all go into looking for work in agriculture now. Now what happens, the agricultural land, whatever is there, the pressure on that land is going to increase because a lot of people are turning towards agriculture now. So this problem happened because of the economic causes. So let's brush up the economic causes. The economic causes, the people affected were the peasants because of high taxes, artisans because they were patronized by the rulers, and these rulers states were annexed by British, and there was also no development of modern industries. Third is the handicrafts. The handicrafts people, also same thing that happened with the artisans. Then the trade and the mercantile class, heavy tariffs were there on the export and there were very low tariffs on the import, and because of this they couldn't compete with the machine made goods. The last kind of people who were affected were the zamindars, who lost their zamindari status because they lost their land. Second type of cause is the political cause. Political cause is because of a lot of broken pledges, that is broken promises that the British made, people started losing faith in the British rule. That is, they bought in policies like subsidiary alliance, doctrine of lapse, and effective control. These Hindu princes, because of all these things, the Hindu rulers whoever were there, they used to lose their succession right. Not only Hindu rulers, Muslim rulers also. Here for example, you can take Muslim prince, a person called Fakhruddin was there. He died in 1856. So this person was not able to get into the throne because of Lord Canning. What had happened was, there was agreement between Lord Dalhousie, who was the then viceroy, who was governor general, and Fakhruddin was there. He had to give away some of the estates or some of his palaces to the British, and he could rule. But later when Canning came, Canning told that the next prince, that is after Fakhruddin, whoever the prince had to come, that person has to give up his titles, has to give up all the palaces, and he also has to renounce whatever the Fakhruddin had accepted also. So all this kind of things angered the Indian people. So here there was collapse of rulers, as I told you. Because of that, lot of people who were depending on them for their sustenance, like on rulers, who all will depend, the people who are work in the court, and people who all are patronized by him, people who help him in building the forts, palaces and everything. All these people are affected because the ruler will be affected, and all these people lost their sustenance because they've all these palaces and these what you call the provinces that belong to the rulers were annexed. Third type of cause was the administrative cause. Administrative cause is, in the administration what was happening was, there was a lot of corruption that was happening. Second thing was, now if corruption is happening, there has to be one authority to look after that corruption, right? So here in India there was no ruler, or there was no someone as a head to look after this corruption, because the person who is head of all this is sitting in Britain. So the sovereign head is in Britain. Because of that, people felt the rule of British in India was like an alien rule. That is, some person, some alien kind of a person is sitting somewhere and ruling us. They felt like that. This is all called as absentee sovereignty, which means that the ruler is not present in the region where he is ruling. The fourth type of cause is the socio-religious causes. Socio-religious causes is, first there was superiority complex. They always treated Europeans as whites and Indians as blacks. So there were racial overtones. Second is, Christian missionaries look suspicious to the people. because they came along with the British East India Company, or they came in the name of British East India Company, people used to feel that these people have come to convert us into Christianity. So there was always suspicion about these Christian missionaries. Next thing was they started abolishing systems like sati, widow remarriage, women education. They encouraged women education, and all this felt like somebody outside is coming and interfering into the personal matters of Indians. Fourth one was the tax, mosque and the temple lands were taxed. Mosque and the temple lands were taxed, and they also passed one of the act called as Religious Disabilities Act of 1856. According to this act, there was modification in the Hindu customs. That is, if one person changes his religion from Hindu to some other religion, that person is still eligible to get the property from his father. This law was passed, and people did not like this kind of laws. Fifth kind of cause was the influence of the outside events. At the same time when British was in India, it was also fighting wars against different countries also. The wars like first Afghan war, Crimean wars, Punjab wars, in all these wars British lost. Because British lost, people felt that now British is weak. Not now, that they felt that British is actually weak and we can defeat them. This is one of the cause they felt. That is why they revolted in 1857. Next cause was the discontent among the sepoys, or you can call it as the military causes. We all know that there is only one military cause, that is Enfield rifle. That is not the only cause actually. The causes are restriction on wearing of sectarian and caste marks. For example, see, if you are wearing a Rudraksha, it is a symbol of your religion. You shouldn't be wearing that in the army. So this was against the people's beliefs. Second thing was proselytizing by the chaplains. Proselytizing means converting activities. Who are these chaplains? They are the clerks kind of people. They used to be involved in converting people to different religion, and these people were paid from the Indian revenue, that is the revenue that was collected from India. This was another concern with the soldiers who were there. And crossing the sea, they were asked to cross the sea. Lord Canning had passed one rule or the act called as General Service Enlistment Act. Because of that, people had to cross the seas and go and serve wherever they were asked to serve. And this was not happy with the people, because they felt that crossing the seas means loss of caste at that time. And whatever emoluments these people were getting, they were not getting equal to the British soldiers. They were always getting lesser than them. And annexation of Awadh, British annexed a region called as Awadh, which is a home to lot of sepoys, and that also soldiers did not like, because they annexed their own home. No payment of foreign service allowance was given. That is, foreign service allowance is known as bhatta, and this bhatta was not given to the people who were serving in the Sindh and the Punjab region. They felt very much subordinate, because in promotions and in privileges matters, they used to be always privilege, or the preference used to be given to the European soldiers. Then it was said that Sepoy is nothing but a peasant who is in uniform. S. Gopal, a person, quotes that the army voiced grievances other than its own, and movement spread beyond the army. When you say that there were revolts in the army in 1857, were there no revolts before this? No, there were revolts before this, like the revolt of Bengal, which happened in 1764, the revolt that happened in Vellore in 1806, the revolt that happened in Barakpur in 1825, and Afghan wars that happened in 1838 to 42. These were all some of the causes. People were unhappy with all of these, and they had all of these in their mind. But there was one cause which is very important, that is the immediate cause, which gave a spark, or which gave an immediate effect for the starting of this revolt of 1857. This is nothing but the Enfield rifle. The Enfield rifle was given to these soldiers, and they had to bite off you can say a bullet kind of a thing. It will have a paper wrapped around it like a silver foil, you can say, and soldier has to bite it off, and he has to load it into the gun. It was said that the paper that was wrapped was greased. It will be usually greased, and this grease was made up of beef fat and pig fat. this rumor had come out. So people were very unhappy because the Muslim soldiers or the Muslim people, for Muslim people, pig is a taboo, and for Hindu people, beef, that is cow, is very sacred. So it was hurting their religious feelings. Second thing also that happened was, there was also rumor that there is mixing of bone dust with atta. Now what will happen to the people who are vegetarians? That there is a very big problem. There is also a problem to non-vegetarians. Which animal bone are you mixing? This also is a problem. So here these were all immediate causes that happened for the outburst of the 1857 revolt. Now the revolt starts. Where does it start? It starts in Meerut. In Meerut, which is 60 kilometers from Delhi, there is a 19th Native Infantry in Behrampur. These people did not accept the Enfield rifle. They broke out in mutiny, but that mutiny was disbanded immediately. Next, in the 34th Native Infantry, there was a person called as Mangal Pandey. So it started in Meerut. You can remember it started in Meerut. The first person to revolt was Mangal Pandey. He fired at a sergeant major. Because of this happened in Barakpur. Because he shot at his major, he was executed, that is, he was hanged. Next, in the 7th Awadh regiment, it also met with the same fate, which means that they also revolted and that was disbanded. Next, something happened in the 3rd Native Cavalry. 90 men did not want to use the rifle. Out of these 90 men, 85 people were put into jail. For 10 years of jail they were put into. So these people got enraged. They started revolting. They went into the jails and they released their comrades, which means they released their fellow soldiers, and they started moving towards Delhi. First is Meerut. Meerut, it started, and there was an important person there called Mangal Pandey. Second is places the Delhi. In Delhi, it was Bahadur Shah. Bahadur Shah was proclaimed as the emperor. As all these people started reaching Delhi, they went there and made Bahadur Shah Zafar, who is a Mughal emperor, as the head. Why did they make Mughal emperor as the head? Because Mughals had ruled India for a very long time. They respected that thing, and they told that Mughals are a representation of political unity in India. So they made Bahadur Shah as the head, that is the emperor of India. Before all these people reached Delhi, on the way they had killed a officer of Britain called as Simon Fraser, and they also defeated Lieutenant Willoughby. He was also defeated. And this mutiny of soldiers, that is, whatever this mutiny of soldiers was there, or this revolt of soldiers was there, this became like a revolutionary war. And Bahadur Shah Zafar started writing to the chiefs and the rulers across the country. He told them to organize and fight and replace the British regime. He told them, wherever it is possible, you fight against the British and replace their rule. He wrote letters to the people. And next thing that happened was civilians joined. Civilians means the common people, like shopkeepers, artisans, peasants, laborers, zamindars, religious mendicants, priests and civil servants also. They all started joining the event. This was what gave a real strength to the revolt of 1857. Next, what happened was, peasants and the petty zamindars, whoever were there, they started revolting against the money lenders and the zamindars, and they started displacing them, which means that these people were all they were all being tortured by these money lenders and these new zamindars. These people fought against them. The peasants and the petty zamindars fought against them and they displaced them. They started destroying all the money records that this money lenders was having, the debt records and the account books, everything was destroyed. People also attacked the police station. They attacked the revenue records, revenue offices, like that is called as the tehsils, and they also attacked the law courts. Next, what happened was, now there is revolt in every place, and in every place there is one prominent person who is going to lead that revolt. So we are going to study the storm centers, that is the center where the revolt happened, and the leader of that revolt, and who is the leader in that center. First is Delhi. In Delhi, Bahadur Shah Zafar is there. he is the Mughal ruler who is only a nominal person, that is, he is not having any real power in his hand. The person who has real power in Delhi was person called as General Bakht Khan. He is from Bareilly. From Bareilly to Delhi he has gone there, and he is taking care of affairs whatever is happening in Delhi. In Delhi they used to conduct a court, and there they used to conduct the affairs of the state. Second place was Lucknow. In Lucknow, it was Begum Hazrat Mahal. She was a queen, and her son Birjis Kadir. Birjis Kadir was not able to get to the throne. This also angered them because of British, and they felt that this is the right time to revolt, and they revolted. Birjis Kadir, who was there, he proclaimed himself as the Nawab of Lucknow. Important offices that were there, that is the finance, military, whatever these offices, important offices were there in Lucknow, it was shared equally between the Hindus and the Muslims. Henry Lawrence and a few Europeans and loyal sepoys whoever were present in Lucknow, they all took shelter in Lucknow residence only. But later Henry Lawrence was killed by the rebels. Rebels mean the person who started revolting in 1857. And there was Brigadier Inglis. Brigadier Inglis was also defeated. Sir Henry Havelock and Sir James Outram were also defeated. But finally, new commander-in-chief will come to Lucknow. His name is Sir Colin Campbell. This person is very successful in evacuating the Europeans from there with the help of Gurkha regiment. In 1858, Lucknow was taken back into control by the British. The third place is Kanpur. The head is Nana Sahib. Who is Nana Sahib? He is the adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II. He acknowledged Bahadur Shah Zafar as the Emperor of India, and he declared himself as his governor. And he killed a person or a British officer called as Sir Hugh Wheeler. Fourth place is Bareilly. Bareilly, the head is Khan Bahadur. Khan Bahadur was a person who was not happy with the pension that was paid to him, so he revolted in Bareilly. Fifth place is Bihar. In Bihar it was Kunwar Singh. He is the Zamindar of Jagdishpur. He is a very old man, and this person was deprived of his estate. This has enraged him, and so he took part in the revolt of 1857. The sixth place is Faizabad. Faizabad was led by Maulvi Ahmedullah. Seventh place was Jhansi, which was led by Rani Lakshmi Bai, and also who was accompanied by Tantia Tope. Because of Lord Dalhousie's famous doctrine of lapse, her son was not able to get into the throne, and because of that kingdom was annexed by the British. So Lakshmi Bai revolted at the wake of 1857, and she gave a call called as "Main apni Jhansi nahi dungi," which means I will not give away my Jhansi. She was joined by Tantia Tope, and both of them started moving towards Gwalior. There they found ruler of Sindhia, but he did not help them, and he took the British side. So Tantia Tope declared himself as the ruler of Gwalior, but Gwalior was later recaptured by the British. Now, another important part that was taken here by a person called as Shamal. This person was not a very famous person. He is just a common man. He is a common villager from UP, place called Bagpat. He organized headman and peasants of 84 villages, which he called as Chaurasi Desh. This it's important to remember. Who organized Chaurasi Desh during the revolt of 1857? It was Shamal. And he went from village to village. He told the people to fight against the British. And here he also destroyed the buildings, roads and bridges, because these were all like the symbols of the British. And he also sent supplies to the mutineers who were all there in Delhi, and he stopped all the communication to happen between Delhi headquarters and Meerut. So if there will be no exchange of information between Delhi headquarters and Meerut, so people, the officers in Meerut will not get to know what is happening in Delhi. So they cut down all the communication lines. He made his headquarters in the bungalow of irrigation departments, which is on banks of river Yamuna, and he also turned that bungalow into a hall of justice for resolving the disputes and judgments. He made it hall of justice like a court, and he was later killed by an officer called as Dunlap, or you can call it as Dunlap. Okay. Next is the suppression of the revolt. How did they suppress the revolt? The revolt was, we know that it was suppressed because we did not get independence by the end of 1857. So this was suppressed. First, which is the important center of power now? Delhi. So first they captured Delhi. John Nicholson, who was the leader of this siege, that is to capture Delhi, whatever the plan they had made, the head of that was John Nicholson, and this person was very badly wounded. Bahadur Shah was taken as a prisoner. They took him to jail, and all the royal princes, whoever supported this revolt of 1857, everybody was killed one by one, and few people were also shot on their point blank by Lieutenant Hudson. This focal point of revolt, that is Delhi, disappeared, that is it shattered. So everybody felt like directionless. When they felt directionless, British took advantage of this, and they started killing every or this every head whoever was there from every region, that is the storm center leaders whoever were there. One by one all the leaders fell now. Sir Colin Campbell, who occupied Kashmir, he defeated Nana Sahib, and this Nana Sahib went away to Nepal. Tantia Tope also escaped, but later he was caught and he was killed. Jhansi Rani died in the battle. When she was fighting the battle itself, she died by Sir Hugh Grose. Benares also, there was a rebellion which started in the later half of 1857, but that was also suppressed by Colonel Neil. By 1859, that is 2 years after 1857, it took 2 years for the British to gain complete control over India again. But they had to spend a lot on money, men, and all the arms that they had used for this recapturing. And who will pay for all this? They will definitely collect it from the Indian people itself. So, why did it fail? Now we saw there is suppression of the revolt, but why did it fail? Why did it fail, and what did this 1857 revolt give information? What information did this 1857 revolt give us? Let us see that in the part 2 of 1857 video. Kindly watch this. This is not a very elaborate explanation, because this is the weightage that is given to this subject. And what I want to say is, let us make the best use of all the resources that we have, that is the spectrum for modern Indian history, and it covers the Indian national movement, which is from 1857 to 1947. So that part of history is very important to study from modern India point of view. So I'll try to cover everything in this. So please subscribe, and you will get a notification when I put a video. So do subscribe, and tell me in the comments if there is any specific query or any questions. This is done exactly in the examination point of view. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.